So I've had this theory for a while now that violence is contagious. I'd say I first came up with this theory probably when I was in middle school. I started noticing that, whenever one fight would happen, it wouldn't be uncommon for a bunch of other fights to happen shortly after. Just kind of because kids get excited about seeing a fight, then they want to get into one themselves, and then more fights happen. It didn't really bother me back then because, school fights are by and large, pretty harmless. They can actually sometimes serve as a good way for kids to get their anger out without having to turn towards, more dangerous types of violence. School fight is just part of growing up. But now with all this police brutality going on, I'm starting to notice the same thing in terms of this whole contagious violence. In July last year, you had Eric Garner getting murdered, and then less than a month later, you had Mike Brown and Akai Gurley getting murdered as well. It's like, in this short period of less than a month, you got three high-profile police shootings all condensed into this very short period of time. Shortly afterwards, November, you had two more cases. You had the Tamir Rice and you had the John Crawford III shooting. They both got murdered within 2 days of each other. Alright, that's two famous police murders in only 2 days. And now, it hasn't got much better. In this month alone, April of 2015, we've had three just absurd cases of police officers murdering people. You had April 2nd, you had Eric Harris getting murdered. That's the one with that cop who was supposedly reaching for his taser, but ended up accidentally grabbing his gun, which is a blatant lie. I don't see how you can mix the two up, and even if you do, I wouldn't think you'd pull the trigger and shoot someone after that. And then just 2 days later, you had Walter Scott murdered. Alright, that's the one that happened in North Charleston, South Carolina. The dude was just running away. He gets shot in the back 7 times. And then more recently, you have Freddie Gray getting murdered by having his spine broken in my home state of Maryland. And what really can be made from these observations, in the past 9 months, we've had a whole lot of police brutality cases. And these cases, it seems as though they always sort of come together in like groups, in clusters. You had the July-August cluster, the Mike Brown, Eric Garner stuff. You had the November cluster that was the Tamir Rice and John Crawford III. And then you had that April cluster, which is happening more recently. The fact that these cases all sort of come in clusters together, it seems to kind of support my theory that violence is contagious. And I feel like, you got these cops, they hear about some incident somewhere where another cop shoots someone and gets away with it, and that excites them a little bit, makes them, but at the same time, it kind of makes them feel a little bit jealous. They kind of wish they were there. They kind of wish that they were doing the shooting. That's kind of, I think that's almost for a lot of them, that's kind of their fantasy. And then next thing you know, next chance they get, they're in a confrontation where they don't need to use deadly force, or sometimes they initiate the confrontation, and then they end up committing shootings too. It's just like the school fights. One fight happens, you got a whole wave of fights coming on. You can expect a bunch of other fights to happen, kind of as a domino effect of that first fight. And it's the same thing with police brutality cases. Whenever one happens, you can expect a whole lot of other police brutality cases to come shortly after, because violence as a whole is contagious. I guess this theory, it can't really be proven, but all I can really say is that, next time a publicized case of police brutality occurs, just be alert for another one to happen shortly after, because that's kind of been the trend so far. You have one happen, and then within the next month, you get a whole lot of others happening, kind of as that domino effect. And I guess if there's anything that can be taken from this, it's that police brutality is, even more of a problem, even more, severe, even worse than we originally thought, because not only does it result in death or bodily harm to the victim, but it can also influence other cases of police brutality to happen shortly after as well.